highs near 68. That's your weekend forecast. And I'm JB.
This is All About Home Construction. And here's your hosts, Terry Cannell-Beck and Randy Blake.
That's right. Good morning, Randy.
Morning, Terry, and everybody out there.
How's it going, man?
Good.
Sweet. Randy Blake in the rock and roll kitchen / radio studio this morning, right?
Yep, right here.
Making that.
Matter of fact, let's see what we're listening to this morning.
Well, right now you're listening to All About Home Construction, of course.
Yeah, I am. And we're listening to the top 40 in 1972 today.
72. All right. Good stuff.
Good
stuff. So get on over there to the VFW this morning. Breakfast is officially underway over there. You guys will be out there for a couple hours, so head on over and eat them out of house and home, right?
Yep, we got our... I got a real good announcement for everybody. We got our wine license, so this month on steak night we'll be serving wine. Or you can come this morning and we'll be having mimosas.
Sweet.
For breakfast.
Congratulations,
with the
man.
Screwdriver and Bloody Mary. So.
That's awesome, man. I know you guys had been working on that, and it's awesome you got it in, and it's just another option to add to offer to people. So I think that's pretty cool.
Well, we got a lot of people that ask for it, especially on the big meals.
Sure.
So, but yeah, this month will be steak night, and we do have a new deck now, enabling everybody to come down the side. They don't have to go through the bar or anything like that. So
that's
what they would like to do. And last steak night, we broke a record with 85 steaks.
Wow. That's a lot of steak. That's cool.
Oh, it's a good night, too.
Love it.
So, hopefully, we'll have a good steak night now, this month.
Sweet.
Maybe we'll have a good breakfast this morning.
I think you're going to, and I think, it's a beautiful Saturday morning, too. It's a good day to just get out and drive around and see things and check things out. And, start your day off with a breakfast.
Well, the college kids are gone, so traffic's a little lighter.
Right. Yeah. Makes a big
Come
difference.
on now.
We'll do it. So, cool. That's good. That's good. So, and I'm glad to hear about that steak dinner. That I didn't realize you had that many steaks. So, I know you said it was a good night, but I didn't realize it was that many. That's awesome. So.
And we also sold the biggest amount of salmon we ever sold before. And we sold 20 pieces of salmon, which is the Asian glaze that we do.
Yep.
And for the non-beef eater.
Sweet. I thought about you last week. I actually, I ate fish for you. Thought about you.
What?
I did. I did. I went out and for dinner, and I was like, all right, I'll try it. And I just got like a black and white fish. So it didn't taste like fish at all that way.
It didn't.
No. I mean, I purposely spiced it up, seasoned it up. I was like, that's what I told him.
So you couldn't taste it.
That's what I told him. I said, I don't like fish. Give me a black and white fish and make it not taste like a fish. And they did a pretty good job. So, I ate fish. Thought about you.
Well, good. Well, I guess in June we'll be having Italian night.
Sweet.
So, I have to go back and research the brain on that. So, what we're trying to do is keep everything the same for the next year.
Right. Well, that's cool. Good stuff. So, well, cool. Well, how's the building work going this last week or two? Is it because so I talked to a couple of different people in the trades this week or this last week. And it seems like everyone I've talked to is still pretty busy. That seems to be the case.
Yeah, we are. Everybody is. But it's more cash deal than it is insurance deals.
Right.
And, that's fine with me. But it's a shame that the insurance is not paying what they need to.
Right.
And I know I got a couple of listeners out there that I've not got back to that I need to. and but it's been pretty doggone tough.
Right. But
I got one job I've never done before. We go in and bid a section, then the engineer signs off on it, then we can do it.
Well, I mean, but I think a lot of people are still, even though a lot of people hadn't got money from the insurance, isn't there a lot of estimating for the insurance going on?
Say that again, please.
As far as I know a lot of people haven't gotten any kind of money from insurance. I know that seems to be a big talking point here among just homeowners, but there's a lot of people getting estimates though. So when they get that money, they can go. Are you seeing that too with a lot of estimates?
Yeah, we've pushed over 600,000 so far.
Yeah,
and we've got about 50,000 in work. How about that?
Sure.
I'm lying. We got closer to about 80,000.
Right.
And but we got one job. They're paying out of pocket because and that's the thing that a lot of people try to do was get money from FEMA.
Right.
But it was second home. FEMA doesn't pay for second home.
Sure.
And they pay for primary residence only.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what we're starting to see is a lot of people just, again, that insurance money not trickling in, or that what they thought they were going to get from FEMA not trickling in, and it's hard. And and the thing is, I think a lot of people, just kind of, everything happened. Immediately it was clean up and trying to restore things. But I think we sat on things all winter because you can't do a ton of work, and now it's getting warm in spring and summer. A lot of people are ready to start to finally fix things back, and then take the Band-Aids off and actually fix things. And so we're seeing, I think, that sluggish start, and people are ready to start. Contractors are ready to start as well, but the money end of things are just bogging down.
Well, we're sort of kind of getting pigeonholed because of that statement you made right there. And because we can't get – people didn't have the money, now they held off. And then now they're receiving money. Now they want to get the work done, but everybody's covered up.
Yep.
I went and looked at a house last week on Beach Mountain. Golly. It needed issues 10 years ago, but every window and door in it was broke from the hurricane.
Yep.
But that was due to the building practices in the 80s because, golly, those windows were only rated for 90-mile-an-hour wind, and that's 150 mile an hour now.
Right. Sure. So, well, yeah.
It's just one of them deals.
Sure.
And then again, I've had, one customer, I told him, I said, your insurance got paid for his estimating. I can't come back and forth and not get paid for my estimates.
Sure.
I said, we don't care to do an estimate, which I already did, and the insurance company said, you don't want to use him. But here I am now, back on the job because the crew that the insurance company recommended walked off the job. How about that?
Oh, wow. Dang. That's something. Yeah. Well, okay. Well, so that raises up. Another thing is are we starting to see, because you hear about this, especially in Florida and stuff after disasters, are you starting to see any kind of the fly by night, coming down, trying to make a couple quick bucks and booking it out?
Yeah, we got, if you drive around town, you got all kinds of companies coming in here that I've never heard of. And I ain't saying they're all bad, but you have these, and North Carolina sort of kind of opened herself wide open now that they've changed the codes to 40,000 without a permit.
Yep.
So you got a lot of stuff that's going to be going on behind the scenes. So people just beware. As we've talked in the past, the best people you can get is the people that grew up here.
Sure. Well,
so they know
the people that know how to build here, but people that's also invested back into the community here. Because those are the people that they stick around. That's the people you're going to run into in the grocery store, and they're not going to want to be. They want you to be happy. They're going to want you to smile when you see them. That kind of thing. So, I mean, that's what's so important about shopping local, right?
And I'm not trying to begrudge anybody out of work, but I've seen a lot of junk over the years.
Sure.
We did a job, golly, 4 years ago, and he was a contractor out of Mississippi that started a job. And I'm going, what? There was no rhyme or reason to it.
Right.
And it was framing, and I couldn't understand it. So, I mean, I did. We tore it down.
Right. Yeah. That happens.
But we fixed it, and the customer was happy. Now they want us to come back and build an addition. So.
Yep. Well, good. That's what happens. So, tell you what, let's take a quick break, and we'll come right back. And I got some more questions for you, man. I'll throw you some questions and see how it works out. So.
Well, I'll try.
All
You
right.
buffaloed me twice over there.
I try, man. That's what I try. All right, we'll take a break. We'll be right back. That's right. All about home construction here on WATA and on our podcast, All About Home Construction. Thanks for listening to us. Randy Blake at the Rock and Roll Kitchen at the VFW. Breakfast is going good, man. You got a crowd yet?
No. We got one feller here.
All right.
And generally it starts slow and ends fast, but, last month it started fast at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, well. It's our listeners are listening. They got to finish the show, and then they'll be there. So, yeah. Get them.
In fact, we have a few that listen to the show, and they do come out.
And we appreciate that.
We do appreciate that.
You bet. So, awesome. So, well, cool. Good stuff. All right. Well, we had talked a little bit before the break there. Again, just rebuilding. Lots of people right now are trying to fix things up. As it gets into spring and summer, we always have this push to renovate and things like that. But especially now with all the damage that we had 7 months ago now. But it made me think, like, what are we seeing now? Like, what's the most common building code violations that you start to see, especially from those people who are trying to DIY it? In other words, what advice? What are you worried about the most in terms of seeing on those code violations?
Well, there's probably not a lot of code violations going on, but there's a lot of red tape you got to jump through, and that gets a little frustrating. I got to give Franklin Graham a handout for bringing that up on national TV about North Carolina being so restrictive on trying to get building permits. A lot of counties dropped it. The restrictions and stuff.
Right.
Watauga County did for a while, but now you got to jump through your hoops to get your building permit.
Right. Well,
and there's some laws that I don't really agree with, but I got to do a little checking in there. And one of them I disagree with is have to pay an extra $250 to the health department to have an inspection on your well and septic tank when you're working within the same footprint.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
And so, one of the biggest frustrations we've had over the years is with the health department waiting 2, 3, 4 months to get an inspection.
And that's been for the last 20-something years. I mean, that was a problem back before the bubble in 2008.
Yeah, correct. We had a meeting with the county commissioners over that mess back in 2006.
Yeah.
And that helped it for a while, but then it just went back into nothing again.
Yep.
And not everybody's going to be wrong on what they're doing, but I disagree. If it's within the same footprint of the house that was built, there's no need to have a health permit.
Right. No. Well,
like I said, I'm going to do a little research on that.
Sure.
Because under the law of 2012, if they tell you something, then they have to be able to prove it in the book.
Right.
That's what they're doing.
Sure.
And now the new code book has not come out yet, but when the new code book comes out, no municipality or building inspector can supersede the code.
Right.
Like Town of Boone. Well, I want a roof on my house. Mm-hmm. Town of Boone wants a permit. North Carolina says you do not have to have a permit on a roof that crosses $40,000.
Okay.
And the way it was explained to me, roofing, drywall, painting people, stuff like that, like a lot of states has, all subs have to be licensed, okay?
Right.
Even painters, even roofers and stuff. Yeah. Well, North Carolina took the stance when I sent a letter to Raleigh about it, that's how people get started in construction companies, generally drywalling or roofing or, putting windows in and stuff like that. And that's the reason they don't want to deter people from getting in the construction industry.
Right.
Which college sort of kind of really helped us out with, making educated people that don't want to work in the trades.
Right.
And, some do come back. And, but, like I told you in 2017 when I was on the education committee,
mm-hmm.
Catawba Tech had proved the point that a person going into construction at 20-year-old, time they're 50, can make anywhere from 1.2 to 1.6 million.
Yeah.
In wages. And that's not counting if they go into business for themselves.
Yep. Right. I mean, that's key right there, right?
Yeah, and it's not an easy business to learn.
Right.
We see a lot of people that come up. Well, we are, like I told you on that before the last break, I am a contractor, but I'm from such and such.
Right.
Well, I've worked in 4 different states, and the construction's all the same. But I've seen some stuff, people coming out of Florida and Alabama and Mississippi, and they don't frame nothing like what we did.
Sure. And that's the key. And again, that's what I worry so much about. And hopefully not, maybe not here in the high country itself, but when you look at the greater area of Western North Carolina, right? I just worry about those people coming in and trying to make that quick buck and turn around and leave and no way to hold them accountable,
Yeah.
Well, okay, so you mentioned a little bit about like code violations, like it's taken a while to get a permit and stuff. What is it? So I know the rules are changing a little bit with the $40,000 limit and things like that. But when we think of locally with the hurricane damage and stuff, what repairs of that damage do we really need to think about in terms of like I need to get a permit for this versus I just can fix this?
Well, a good rule of thumb is if it has to do with structural issues in your house, you do have to have a permit. Okay.
So even so at what point though, like, because I know a lot of people like foundations are washing out, not necessarily collapse, but just about to, right? Washing out and things like that. Is that something that you're going to have to get a permit for to build that back up if you're not technically building the foundation, if you're just beefing it back up?
Not necessarily on that right there. Let's say it knocked a hole in your foundation, okay, and you can fix it relatively easy. I would not get a permit.
Okay.
But now I'm talking about maybe a 2x3 or 2x4 hole.
Sure.
But let's say it takes a 10-foot section and 3 foot wide out of your foundation. Then yes, you need to have a permit for that.
Okay.
Because that can change it from you just putting in a few blocks to you having to support the house. Okay.
Right. Well,
the reason
yeah,
that those foundations are failing, and most time they're failing because of their age.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you think about it, we've talked about this before, right? When you go back, let's just say you go back 100 years ago, right, before a ton of houses were here, like everyone's building on the flat sections and the low sections, which happens to be near the river, which are the places that were the most affected from the hurricane. So it kind of makes sense that that they obviously took the most damage in terms of abuse, the water and stuff, but they're also the oldest, and so it kind of makes sense. I think it was like a double whammy for some of these houses.
Yeah, and we're close to a river and stuff. I've been talking to a few people, like in Avery County,
right,
where they're close to the river. They are making those folks raise their houses 3 foot up.
Okay. Now, yeah, I mean, but I guess at that point you would have to have a permit because now it's completely changing the structure. It's a complete structure change. Yeah. And
being that you're gonna have to jack it up, you're gonna have to have an engineer involved in that because now they're gonna make you put flood vents in.
Yeah, because it's not just as simple as crawling under there with 4 jacks and raising it up. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that.
Correct. And location of the flood vent too, because see now when the flood comes, that door will fly open and allow water to go through, and it allows to go out the other side.
Right. Okay.
And let's just hope it never happens. It won't happen in our lifetime, I don't think.
Sure. Sure.
Even probably the houses that survived the best were the closed crawl space houses.
Yeah, because I mean they kept the water out, right?
Correct.
But
and what would allow them to get water in would be the access door to your base, to your crawl space. But the point of it is, as soon as the power come back on, it would be pumping water out.
Yep.
And the dehumidifier would be getting the water out also. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and mold is still one of those things that I'm really worried about in the upcoming months. Is again, just people who didn't realize it got as wet as it did, especially when we lost power for so long. You couldn't immediately get dehumidifiers in there. And, I'm just worried there's a lot of places that they thought were dry but didn't realize the moisture was high enough. And now I don't know. I just worry that, mold's going to start popping up that we didn't realize we had in the next couple months.
Well, it can. Dehumidifier will help, get the moisture out to do that. And on these warm days, if you feel like you got moisture in your house, turn your air conditioner on.
Yeah.
So your air conditioner will suck it out pretty fast.
And that's an air conditioner and dehumidifier is just
the only
built the same,
Go ahead.
I was going to say a dehumidifier and air conditioner are basically built the same.
Correct. The only difference is the whole house air conditioner will take it out faster than the dehumidifier.
Right.
Dehumidifier will take it out of one room.
Yeah.
Okay. Now just remember, mold is not poisonous when it's damp. Mold is poisonous when it's dry. That's when the spores can get into your nose. But also remember, when the mold scare come back in, I guess, the 90s,
mm-hmm.
we've only had one person in the whole United States die from mold poison.
Okay.
And that had to be an excessive area. But do not use bleach to clean your mold.
Yeah.
And you can hydrogen peroxide will take care of it.
Yeah.
Golly, what's that other thing? Lysol. Remember the Lysol we used to get in the brown container?
Yep.
You mix some water, that'll kill the mold, and it will not come back. Once the bleach evaporates, the mold will start back.
Sure.
So that's the reason I say bleach. Bleach is just a temporary fix.
Right. Yeah. Sure. Well, okay. So when we think ahead, again, these people are looking to do some summer and spring repairs now. Again, just because it's not something that you need to pull a permit to, it's still work that has to meet code, right?
Right.
Ideally, even if you don't have an inspector coming out, you still need to build it to those codes, because if you turn around and ever try to sell the house, you've got to bring that up to compliant then, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's where it's going to get you. You're saving $1 today, but you're going to cost you an arm and leg later on.
And that's to me is the worry right now, because again, it's like Well, I mean, people are waiting on these checks from insurance. They're waiting on these FEMA things, and they're not getting what they hoped or wanted. And so, again, it's we put that Band-Aid on it, and it's like, because everything went up fast because you're trying to get back into it. You're trying to live again, right? And so there's a lot of temporary fixes that I worry about that are just the temporary fixes are going to turn into long term, instead of actually redoing things. And I worry in the next 4 or 5 years when a lot of these houses are going up for sale. Like, what is it that we're going to see? Like what violations are we going to see that were Band-Aids,
Correct. Well, sometimes you can only do a Band-Aid.
Sure.
And
oh yeah. And I'm not knocking that. Like, I mean, I would be in the same situation, right? You got to put the Band-Aid on, but when it comes to building and codes and stuff, I think that's going to be the problem for the next foreseeable future.
Correct. It is about like the insurance company taking forever to give money back to people, or just turning them down.
Yep.
That's pretty frustrating.
Sure. So.
Matter of fact, I'm looking at North Carolina. Looks like they've put the code book back up online.
Mm-hmm.
And so that'll give you an outlet again. That was a great outlet for people doing their own.
Right.
I thought it was. And so it's coming back. Just, if you don't know, look it up.
Sure.
That might save you some money down the road, especially if you want to sell your house and then you got a home inspector comes in. And home inspectors are not supposed to read code. They're supposed to come out and show flaws, okay?
Right.
And but not code.
Gotcha.
But if it's deck's falling down, they're going to call for it. And if you didn't put your pad in correctly, then you have to go back and replace it.
Right.
Or pay somebody to replace it. And we all know senior citizens, they get a little older, they can't work like they should. And that happens.
Yeah. Well, one thing I worry about too is like insulation. A lot of people got flooded that even didn't have tons of damage. They've had to redo the walls, like pull out the insulation and drywall and redo that. And if you don't go back, if you do that quickly and don't go back correctly on the insulation, for instance, it won't be up to compliant. And so now you've got to, not only are you living miserable in terms of a drafty house, but when you go to sell it, right, that's I would imagine that's something that's going to come into play, right? Like you don't put the insulation back correctly. All that's going to hurt when it comes in on the selling side, not to mention the comfortable side for yourself. Well,
you're going to find it more in the comfortable side, because the people that's going to look at your house and buy it, the only way they would know that it was bad insulation in the house or faulty insulation would be with a blower doors test.
Right.
And or somebody with a thermal camera, because here where I'm sitting at the VFW, I know that there's a spot of insulation that was missed off this roof. It's a 4x4. And we could see that with a thermal camera.
Mm-hmm.
And so these home inspectors, some of them pretty sharp. And George Moore, he had a mole sniffer and had a radon sniffer. And and they would tell you that if the machines will let you know that somebody opened a door or window in the house where they were doing the test at, because homeowners have come back and opened windows and doors after they signed the contract, say no, they wouldn't, to try to sway the test. Well, it tells you on these tests what time of day that the air in the basement changed, okay? And generally that's because somebody opened the door or closed the door.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Your radon detector's got to be 3 days.
Right.
Without any interference.
Exactly.
Anybody walking in the room or open door, open window.
Exactly. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take our next
I think
break.
It's 24 hours.
Oh.
24 hours for a thing. So.
Yep.
Oh.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, let's take our next break here, and we'll come right back right after this. Sound good to you?
Yep.
Get on over to the VFW, though. He's there cooking. We'll be right back right after this. That's right. All about home construction here on WATA. Randy Blake at the Rock and Roll Kitchen doing breakfast at the VFW this morning. Get on over there. Breakfast is rolling. What we got for breakfast this morning, Randy?
Oh, the meat eater's cream. All but we got grits for the people too. So.
Nice. All right.
And Dave Faulkner makes one of the ugliest dishes I've ever seen, and that's French toast out of French bread, and it looks goofy. But golly, we had more people call about that right there. Dave wasn't here last month, so.
Nice. Well, good. All right. So French toast this week.
And our ATM's out, so please bring cash. If you can.
Yeah, that's fair. It's fair. Bring some cash, no worries. And yeah.
Well, that's getting to be the thing of past.
I know, and I'm just as guilty as everybody else. Like I need to be carrying cash more. I don't, and every time I need it, I wish I did. I know.
Yeah, well, I'm in the same boat.
So.
And I don't know about cash, but every now and then I'll get a few dollars.
Yep. I know. I'm with you. So, yeah. Well. All right. So again, just talking a little bit about some of the worries, I guess, of what needs permits, what doesn't. Again, and just building to code regardless of new construction with permits or these repairs. I mean, you still need to build, and I think it's important to point out, like, we've talked before, building to code, like we make a big deal about this, like, oh, you have to build to code. Like that's, like giving it, that's, in other words, like you get an A+ if you build to code. But the truth is, the building to code is just a C,
Well, that's the minimum.
Right.
It's the minimum amount of work that you
pass.
can do.
Yeah.
And like I said, get somebody to live around here. Most people that build around here exceed code. We have to because of energy standards and stuff like that.
Yep.
One thing we was talking about off the air was I'm seeing a lot of people use ice and water shield all over the whole roof. I think that's a great thing.
Yeah. Now explain that. Explain that a little bit.
Well, ice and water shield is a peel and stick product. Okay. You don't even have to nail it on; it'll glue to itself. So if you start with your felt, and I need to send you a picture of one. This last year's first time I've really seen it. I mean, code says you have to use aluminum, galvanized, or weather shield in all valleys, and also roof penetrations.
Right.
But with people doing the whole roof now, that felt, you'll never peel that felt off.
Yeah.
And like I said, it glues to the screws and glues to the nails. And I can hear the next question: what are you going to do with the holes that's left in the roof?
Yep.
Well, whatever product you put back on it, your shingles or your metal, is going to be hot enough that those holes are going to glue back together.
Okay. So it's going to give you a good gasket seal over everything.
Correct. And it doesn't make, and the only way that's going to come off is if the wind tears your roof system off.
Right. Okay.
And but all the building supplies carry it.
But I mean, I guess to do this, you're going back down to the plywood, right? I mean, in other words, you're not going to be able to put this over shingles, which you don't like putting roofing over roofing anyway.
No, I don't. And the reason for that is because the heat build up in your attic system.
Right.
And now, code did, even though manufacturer says 3 layers of shingles on the roof, North Carolina code says only 2 now.
Okay.
And the reason for that is shingles aren't lasting.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you see that.
Why? Excuse me. The average 30-year roof's lasting 12 to 15 years. Okay. So now you put another layer of shingles on top of it. Now you've probably got it down to about 8 to 10 years on the lifespan on it. Mm-hmm. And like when my roof, I watched them put it on, and I didn't realize it had the original shingles on it from '64 on the first layer. It only lasted 5 years. That new roof did with architectural shingles.
Right.
And so there's no, you're saving money by leaving the shingles on, but you're also creating a lot of heat in your house, and you're creating more weight on your house.
Right.
And nobody, Lowe's carries three tab shingles. Most building supplies don't because they went to architectural shingles. So as a rule of thumb, that's 350 pounds per square, and that's a 10 by 10 area. Yep. On your original rafter system, now you're going to go back and put another layer on, so you add another 350 pounds to it.
Yep.
And most people's going to go, shingles don't weigh that much. They do weigh 300 pounds a square, but you got to take into your nails, you putting in these shingles, the felt, the button caps, because you do have to put a layer of felt in between the roofing.
Right. Yep.
Another vapor barrier.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's adding more stress to it. But then you go, what do you do when it snows now, right? Like that's 300 pounds that you can't have of snow load. And so yeah, it makes total sense. And
well, one thing that really helps North Carolina compared to the older homes is our code says we have to have R38 in the shingle or in the attic. Mm-hmm. Okay, so to get R38, you have to use 2x12s or use 2x10s and use R30C, which is denser. And so there's ways to cut back on your cost of your rafters, but think of all the older homes out there like my home. See, mine's 2x6s, and you can see the bows in it, and it's held a lot of 3-foot snows. But I'm glad we didn't have any 3-foot snows when we had 3 layers of shingles on.
Right. Yep.
And when you put that extra layer of shingle on, and you don't felt it, okay, where you're going to run into trouble is not in the rain. You're going to run into trouble where you got gutters and the water evaporates. Now it comes up and hangs on the bottom of your shingles and can travel up through those shingles through natural convection of the heat.
Yeah.
The water basically steams as it travels up. And so now, if you've got poor felt underneath it, when that lower first layer of shingles gets to start to deteriorate, you can get leaks, and you'll never run them leaks down.
Right.
You're paying to strip off 2 layers of shingles, not 1.
Yep. Well, that's the thing that worries me too. With when we talk about repairs too, is because I would imagine roof. That's probably the one, if not the biggest repairs that we're seeing now post hurricane. Right. I mean, lots of trees damaged roofs, lots of leaks in general, and so going back and not doing it correctly again, it's an easy thing to not do correctly. How's that?
You don't know how many people over the years is going, well, I don't care. I'll be around in 10 years.
Right. Well, and the roof is one of those things that, like, you don't really see it. I mean, like, you see it from a distance. You're not looking close to it like you would, a floor and stuff. So it's easy to be up above, out of the way, and as long as you don't have any problems with it, you really don't pay attention to it.
Correct. But then when it does start, you have to pay attention.
Right. Yep.
And so think about what you're doing. To give you an idea, when I went down and put a roof on my dad's house, and he was 72-year-old, okay? And we put metal on it. Mm-hmm. It's been on now 22 years. And I said, well, we can go with a galva loom, Dad. It's less money. And he said, no, this is the color your mama wants. And I don't expect to live that long, and I want her to be took care of.
Right. Yeah.
And that was his thought.
Sure. Cool.
But so just do it right the first time, and it'll save you money in the long run.
Yep, definitely. Well, tell you what, let's take our last break, and we'll come right back. Again, Randy Blake over at the Rock and Roll Kitchen at the VFW. Get on over there. A couple more hours now, 2 more hours, a little over, and he'll get you good breakfast over there. So head on over. Let's take a break. Be right back.
All right.
That's right. All about home construction here on WATA. Thanks for listening to us. And don't forget, you can reach us on the podcast, allabouthomeconstruction@gmail.com. Send us an email. And if you go back and listen to this, we got it up on YouTube. We got it up on Spotify, Apple, and just basically wherever you want a podcast, we got it. And that way you can share it with friends. And we appreciate all of our listeners, nationwide listeners, and we appreciate those across the nation. And so check it out, All About Home Construction. For those that are listening, again, just share it. And it actually is really cool when you guys, for those listening on the radio, if you go back and listen to it and then click the little like button and do all the sharing stuff, and it helps us get more listeners. And so we appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, well, cool.
I'll be with you on just a bit.
So, Randy, last few minutes here on the show, and then so you got about 10 more minutes. Then that way you can get over to the Rock and Roll Kitchen yourself, right? He'll be there till 11 o'clock, serving some nice breakfast over at the VFW. The monthly. I can't talk here. The monthly breakfast at the VFW. So go fill up, man. Go fill up.
Well, we got mimosas this morning too.
Mimosas. I'm not a mimosa fan, but I know lots of people are. So there you go. Get over there and get your mimosas.
Well, being that we can do that now, we got a wine license.
Yeah, that's awesome for you. I know that's something that comes in handy with the meals and stuff, and because the cool thing is, you don't have to like wine. You can always not order it, but for those that do, it's kind of important to have a license to do it. So now you got that. That's awesome. So,
come out and join us.
Good stuff. Again, just bring cash this morning if you got it. Help them out a little bit there. Make things a little easier for you on this morning. So that'll work. So
we had a comment about us. We were closed one day.
Right.
And then we had somebody put on Facebook that we were closed. No, we're not closed.
Yeah.
And so we're here.
Good. When's the next karaoke night? Do you know off the top of your head?
Oh, yeah. This afternoon.
That's what I thought. Okay. Sweet.
We're doing it between Dave and Gary Parker. They're doing it every Saturday now.
Okay. I didn't realize they were doing every Saturday. That's awesome.
I didn't either till last week. And because I'm generally gone for that.
Right. Well, good.
But that's the way it goes. But that's been going pretty good.
Good.
And a lot of people showing up for that. So come on out for karaoke.
Nice.
Full cat's tail.
Love it.
That'd be me.
Right? Yeah, well, one day I'll get you up there. So, well, we're talking a little bit about some spring and summer repairs and stuff. And when you start working on these older homes, right? Because a lot of the older homes were damaged. And so when you start working on these older homes, how is it you kind of balance that existing structure but yet bring it up to modern code?
Well, it's not that hard sometimes. The only time it gets, when it will definitely come up, 2018 codes, is once you cross 51% damage in the house. Then you have to bring it up to the existing building code.
Right.
An older home, let's say it knocks the wall out. As long as there's, that is structural, but as long as the foundation's good shape, you could jack it up, cut the floor out, and replace it and go on. You'll still require a building permit. But a lot of people, like the VFW here, we got a spot back there in the floor. And when it was built in the 70s, see, your subfloor was half-inch, then they used 5/8 particle board. The only time they didn't use 5/8 particle board was in the kitchen and the bathrooms, and they had to use 5/8 underlayment because it was more waterproof than particle board. But that was the standard. Just knowing the standards of the time. How about that?
Right.
Or construction practices really helps out. Which, a lot of younger guys, they weren't built like I was, or like I grew up. Because, I grew up in a time period where they're still putting boards down for floor sheeting. they were putting plywood on the walls, but then they were putting the boards down.
Right.
And went to plywood. Then we went to 1/2 inch, 5/8. Then we went to sturdy floor product, which is 3/4. We have OSB, and then we got Avantex come out with a 1-inch floor. And I like Advantech, but you got to put it on 16-inch centers. You can't put it on 2-foot centers because it will squeak.
Right.
With hardwood. So.
Right. Well, cool. Yeah. I mean that's the trick, right? The little tricks of the code of the trade.
Well, when you get into furnace changes and stuff like that, then you do have to have permits. Hot water heaters do not.
Okay. Good to know. I mean that.
But on your roofs, okay. Now this is a code. Is you do not have to have a permit to put a roof on. But if you find a piece of rotten plywood, now this is a law I just don't quite understand. If you find a piece of rotten plywood, now you have to stop the job and go get a permit. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Right, especially when you can't just, it's not just driving over and grabbing a permit. There's a process and stuff involved.
Yeah, and but see, now you've got the roof off a house.
That's what yeah. And so you're waiting days or weeks to get pick it back up, and another in the meantime it's just exposed. It can't be good.
Well, it ain't, and I disagree with it. But being a licensed entity, I have to conform to the rules.
Yeah.
And that's just part of it. So.
Well, that's fair. It's fair. Well, and you hit on a key right there. That last thing you just said, right, is a licensed entity, and that's key when you're hiring someone to do these repairs. You want to make sure they know what they're doing. Especially when it comes to workman comp insurance and things like that. Like, again, a lot of people don't realize that if I hire some handyman to come fix it and he gets hurt in my house, like I could be liable for that.
Well, I was looking up the price on plywood, like OSB 3/4 is still $23.90.
Okay.
With the tariffs and stuff, which we'll have to see what happens to us this time around.
Right.
But Avantech, remember, it was $105.
Yeah.
At one time during COVID, and now it went from like $35 to $52 a shoot.
Okay.
But I noticed that right after code change.
Right. Good stuff.
Or no, excuse me, after the tariffs.
Tariff, right? Yeah, that's what I figured. Yep.
Sorry about that. I misspoke.
That's all right. No, you're right. You're good. And so, okay. Well, again, just hopefully this helps some people out. And again, I just worry so much because it's I think people are, now that winter's over and we're finally getting into spring and stuff, like people are starting to do some work and some of the stuff that they've put off and the repairs and stuff, and it's just great, and hopefully it's some good information for people.
Well, even though we do it with a computer, it still takes a while.
Sure.
And especially when I am the chief bottle washer and everything, estimator.
Right.
But when you're doing a whole house like that house I looked at up on Beach Mountain, that estimate will probably take about a week and a half to do it.
Yep.
It is tore up so bad, you got to get flooring people in there.
Yeah.
Now, this is a 51%. This is a house built in the 80s.
Right.
So now it will have to be brought all the way back up to 2018 codes.
Yep. That's that's not a bad thing in some ways, but when it comes to the estimating, right? Like you got to know what, now you got to figure out what it takes to get it there, and I think that's one thing, again, when you're doing something like that, you don't think about all the pieces involved. It's easy to get an estimate on painting your house or doing the floors, something, right? Because that's one thing involved. But when you start adding things in and components to different things, there's just a lot of moving parts, really. So.
Well, I just wonder about insurance costs. Are they going to go up?
I mean,
And
I
well, golly, look at the damage all across the United States.
I don't know how they won't. Hopefully they won't, but I don't know how they won't. But I don't know, man. I don't know. So, well, show's almost over again. Go on over and see Randy Blake at the Rock and Roll Kitchen. Go over support the VFW. You guys will be there until what, 11 o'clock, right?
11 o'clock.
That's it.
If you come in, if a group comes in at 11 o'clock, we'll serve you too.
All right. There you go. So get on over there, and again, just fill them up, make them run out of food for me. Do that.
Oh, yeah. No, y'all ain't going to run out of food.
All right. Well, I challenge people. We get enough people in there. Good stuff, man.
Oh, that'd make my day.
All right. We'll go make his day for us. Thanks for listening to us. And, yeah, Randy, have fun, man. Good luck on that.
All right.
All right. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
All right.